Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone. It is caught. Jelani Woods, touchdown! ISB!
A 43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Galloway drives all the way to the hole, throws it up, got it! Indiana's got their first lead of this contest.
I mean, that's a goddamn Emmy winner right there.
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Thursday, July 20th. Thanks a lot for joining us. We appreciate you immensely. Coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, Jim Coyle and Dustin Schutte in studio. How about that? Not bad. Don't forget Indiana Sports Beat Radio, powered by Andy Moore Honda. Just go to andymorehonda.com to get more to your door and the best prices in new and used vehicles. And Endeavor Hospitality and the family of restaurants located in and around the Bloomington area. Great places like BB's Market and Chop Shop, the greatest and latest in steakhouses. Cannot wait to get by there. Hopefully later today after the golf outing. Speaking of which, Never Lose Hoop outing going on today at the Golf Club at Eagle Point. Looking forward to that. Dustin Schutte, thanks a lot for joining us in studio.
I know this is fun. It's my first time down here at the Eagle Point Studios. It's a great setup. Looking forward to the Never Lose Hoop outing today. It's going to be a lot of fun. So this is exciting.
Cannot wait, man. Big day. Yeah, looking forward to this. Hopefully we can do a little bit more of this now that you're in country, as I will call it.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. It's nice to. I mean, look at this. Usually we're via. What's this called? Via like Zoom type thing, and now I can pat you on the back. Look at that.
Easy there. Don't touch the merchandise, baby. Don't touch the merchandise. Appreciate everybody joining us on the Andy Moore Honda hotline as well. Fred jumping in from Easton, Pennsylvania. Dwayne down in Southern Indiana. Robbie, Fred, Doug, Forrest, Mike, Jamie. Appreciate all you guys from all over the place, no matter how you're listening, whether it's radio or YouTube or we appreciate you in every way. And if you are on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe and like buttons as well. So we got that taken care of. Robbie, how are you, sir? As well. Looking forward to a fun day of golf outing here at the Golf Club at Eagle Point as Never Lose Hoop gets underway later on after the show. Looking forward to raising some money for a good cause. Jordan Hulls and the whole Hulls family and their foundation that benefits area kids with cancer and their families. A worthy cause, and so grateful to be a part of that. Thanks a lot for coming down, Dustin, for that, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, people that have listened to the show and have, tuned in when I've co-hosted may already know this, and I know we've talked about it before, but Children's Hospital's fundraisers for this sort of thing is usually holds a special place in my heart, because growing up, I used to go to Riley Children's Hospital probably once a month, and while my experience wasn't always traumatic or anything significant, having to go to those places, having to witness what I saw and see people who were there for extended period of time, months, years at a time, that it's always going to hold a special place in my heart. So this is a great cause. It's an awesome thing that Jordan and JC Hulls are doing. They've been doing it a couple years now, I think. So it's really a cool thing. It's fun to be a part of it, because this is something that's always going to be near and dear for me. Well, any way you can help, pediatric cancer and things like that, it's going to be awesome. So huge shout out to them. Absolutely.
And like I said, grateful to be a part of that. The Reds back on the winning track, baby. They won 3-2 last night, squeezing one out over the Giants. First time in 7 games that they've won. So hopefully that can start something positive for the Red Legs. More bad news out of Northwestern, as this hazing scandal is kind of going beyond football. And now I've heard about softball, volleyball. I can't even, what all have we heard about?
The baseball head coach got fired because of certain things within that program. So, I mean, it's just one thing after another with Northwestern, what's weird, Jim, is the fact that of all the schools in the Big Ten, Northwestern, Pat Fitzgerald, you would think that was, I don't want to say like the high mark, but in terms of like reputation, in terms of running a clean program, not having this sort of stuff break out, you would think Northwestern would be the last place you would see that because of Pat Fitzgerald's been there he was there for almost 2 decades. Jim Phillips, who a lot of people wanted to be the Big Ten commissioner a few years ago, was the athletic director there. It just seemed like they had everything together, seemed like a very clean program, very clean athletic department. Now, I guess we learned our lesson twice, right? You can go back a decade and we learned about Penn State and Joe Paterno, and now it's happening at Northwestern. So these are things that can happen anywhere. It's just a nightmare situation in Evanston.
Yeah, and I don't want to put those in the same drawer because they're not. It's completely different situations. But it just makes me wonder, are you kidding me? Do you think that this is the only place that this is happening? If this is happening at Northwestern,
right?
I promise you, it's happening elsewhere. But the difference in a program like Northwestern is they probably don't have the amount of transfer portal players in or out, which is able to continue a level of your own continuity, where now you look at a program like Indiana, they've got so many different players in there, in and out. It's not, you have to have guys that are running the show, I guess, so to speak, in that regard. So is hazing a thing of the past? Obviously not yet, but the fact that it's happening in Northwestern, I'm like, yeah, then it's going on everywhere.
Well, I think, to the point with when you use the term hazing, like that's a different, I think we have different definitions. A lot of people are going to have different definitions. So is that sort of stuff going on? I think what is so egregious about Northwestern is the type of hazing that was happening. I think that there's a lot of stuff happening in a lot of college football programs behind closed doors that we don't know of. At the same time, I don't know that it's this kind of egregious and this sort of, I don't know how to put like X-rated. It just seems very unnecessary in the terms of team bonding, quote unquote, and hazing. I don't know. I think there's probably some form of hazing happening in a lot of locker rooms, but this is above and beyond any level of, it's just uncomfortable. I don't know how to phrase it. It's a very uncomfortable situation, but I agree with you. I think something like this is probably happening. I just don't think it's happening maybe on that same level, or maybe this opens up a can of worms where we find out now more and more players at different programs are going to say, you know what, I experienced something like that. I hope that's not the case, but sometimes when one group of players or a certain school or whatever might start talking about it, then it opens up the door for more players to feel more comfortable to talk about their situation.
But also on the same other side of that coin, it also maybe gives people who thought that they needed a voice but didn't really need a voice, but say things that just kind of jump on the train, I guess, so to speak. No pun intended there. We've got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Dustin Schutte in studio, baby. And it's day of Never Lose Hoop, as the Never Lose Hoop outing going on today at the Golf Club at Eagle Point. We're back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're in the
All right. Excuse me. Hey, check this. Oh, well, maybe if I can clear my throat first. Hold on. And what do you think of this new sound, Jimbo? Can you tell I put in a new microphone yesterday?
Well, I can't because I'm listening through the speakers and not through headphones, for one.
No, here, let me turn my camera on for a second and I'll show you. This thing's been sitting in this room for almost a year and I hadn't hooked it up because I didn't have an XLR adapter, and I finally bought one and hooked it up yesterday.
You tight ass.
I know. And it cost me nothing because I brought it from our old studio when we moved.
Look at that. Got him a sweet microphone, baby.
I know. I'm no more echo, which is, my God, I'm so happy about that.
Microphone makes a difference.
It
This is what being
does.
a grown-up is.
I know.
Getting excited about new work toys.
We've got to get you a microphone.
I know.
Any microphone will do.
Since we started looking for a better cash
Nerds.
option.
Great. Love when that happens. Stop. Stop.
We love our house. The
Stop.
outdoor space is great, but we do have invasive weeds.
Man, stop.
East Geico makes bundling my home hard.
What sounds a lot better, Ruffalo? I always sound good. All right.
Matt should be joining us shortly. But we'll see.
John, apparently you sound much better.
Oh, I mean, I guess you can't really tell because you don't have your headphones in. But I mean, I can
Don't worry,
definitely.
I'm getting word from elsewhere.
Oh, from people texting.
Yes.
Sweet. I'm glad
Saquon Mulling skipping season. Come on, man.
Who?
Saquon Barkley.
All right, here we go, guys. 20 seconds.
Culmination of a passion for beer, food, and custom metal art. Check out their custom growlers. Metalworks Brewing Company has an updated menu, new brews, and will be offered in all Endeavor Hospitality restaurants. Come taste what Dr. Hops is brewing. Metalworks Brewing Company. Bring your passion and your thirst.
This segment is brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Thursday. It's July 20th. Never Lose Hoop Day. Hope you're heading out that way. If not, you're going to miss out. Jim Coyle with you. Dustin Schutte in studio. We should do this all the time like this, by the way. Looking forward to talking to Matt Taylor. Dylan Sinn joining us as well. Chris Denari. A bipartisan trio of U.S. senators shared a draft yesterday morning. No, this morning. What am I saying? That aims to create a uniform national law for how college athletes can make money and push many schools to provide more health care benefits for athletes. I mean, we're heading towards employee status.
Yep.
They're waiting as long as they can. And I get it because it's not fair to a degree. What is it? What's fair and what's not fair? Football pays the bills.
Right.
Basketball does a great job with that as well. Boom. Those are the only two sports that truly make money in college athletics. And I don't want to hear about, well, women's basketball. Only if they're good. Only if they're a good program. And that comes and goes with, I promise you, if Indiana's women's basketball program sucked for the next 5 years, they would not have the crowds that they have right now. They would not have the excitement. It's just common sense, people. But football pays the bills. Basketball is right there behind it, and TV and all of that. If you're going to make every athlete an employee, well, now you're already you're charging football with basically taking care of the entire athletics department, in essence, which that's not fair. Now, and then you look at a program or a team or a school like Indiana, whose football program is not up to snuff as far as being the engine on that train. Things are not going to be the same. It's just not.
Right. What's interesting about, the more the more student athletes have received, the more they're going to want. And I do think it's fair for the on the terms of the medical coverage part, I mean, I don't know the specifics about what's being talked about, what's being discussed, what's fair and not fair. But I mean, there used to be right now we're looking at a situation where a lot of student athletes are kind of sacrificing their bodies for a school. And beforehand, it was for an education. Now you throw NIL into the mix. I feel like almost the healthcare benefits, long-term sort of healthcare benefits, and I don't know what that sort of thing looks like, would almost be more beneficial to more student athletes than the NIL. Because as you mentioned, you've got certain schools where maybe NIL is going to make a difference for – maybe some are more invested in the softball team, or some are more invested in baseball or volleyball. Whatever the case might be. At Indiana, it's going to be men's and women's basketball for the most part. That's just the way it is. That's what the school is geared towards. So you may not see some of those residuals on the football side. We saw Dason McCullough left Indiana for Oklahoma because he was probably going to get more money, or did get more money, in order to go there. Tom Allen went on that, I don't want to call it a tirade because it was all true, but that passionate speech we saw with Don Fisher last fall, basically saying we got to get more money in here. I don't know that that's ever going to happen for the Indiana football side of things, but if the school or some other party can provide more health coverage, I mean, that would be a huge benefit. And you pair that with a free education, that's going to put a lot of student athletes in a really good position. So I don't know what the answer is, but this is something that I think is I don't want to say necessary, but I think it would be a welcome, probably a very positive change in college athletics.
Well, it's necessary because schools provide sports that are just money losers. Virtually every sport that is provided is a money loser. Lacrosse is not making anybody money.
Right.
Men's soccer at Indiana, I doubt that it's making money as far as being in the bread of the black from the cost of travel and all that. There's no way possible that it's making money. Scholarships, and that's a successful sport. So there has to be, talked yesterday about, there have been some states already that's put laws in place. Oh, stop with that crap. Stop. They're part of the problem when they're jumping up there, when they know that this is what needs to be done. It has to be one blanket. It can't be 50 different sets of rules. Missouri, thank you very much, you morons. Especially with going against what the NCAA rules themselves. I hate when lawmakers stick their nose in a way that, like Missouri just has, that goes against the rules. Coaches don't have time to be negotiating money deals, number one. Number two, they shouldn't be involved, period. And now that Missouri says, oh, yeah, that's okay to do, which goes against the NCAA rule, now how are you going to mitigate that stuff? But that's where lawmakers are just ego. They're egotistical, in my opinion. You're just causing more problems. Maybe it's not. Maybe it will get someone to act. I don't know. But there is going to have to be a uniform set of rules for everybody, and that everybody has to follow.
Well, and the NCAA just kind of, they made a big mistake in the first place by not setting a boundary of rules or anything like that from the start. They don't have the toothpaste. They can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. So that's going to be the biggest problem.
Yeah. What are you looking at? Oh, Matt Taylor's with us. That's what you're looking at. That's why. Need extra producers here. Matt Taylor, how are you doing, brother?
Hey, guys, what's going on? What are you doing?
Oh, we're just sitting here discussing NIL rules, and I've got Dustin in studio, actually.
That's awesome. You guys having brunch later, too? That's awesome.
Yeah, brunch, maybe Home Depot if there's time.
Nice little Thursday.
That's right. Nice little Thursday plan, baby. It's Never Lose Hoop Thursday, brother.
Are you taking them up to Psalms after this?
Well, we got the Never Lose Hoop golf outing today, so yeah. We'll be up at Psalms.
Awesome. What time are you guys teeing off?
High noon.
Ah, nice. All right. Well, you got to carry this guy. You know that, right? You got to carry him, Dustin. He can't shoot him straight. All right. It's up to you.
Let me tell you, if that's the case, this team's going to be in big trouble.
He ain't heavy. He's my brother.
All right. Well, fair enough. Just have a good time. That's what it's all about.
Just kidding. How have you been, brother?
Been good. Yeah, doing good. Getting ready for football next Tuesday. Report day is the 25th, and then the first practice for the Colts is the 26th, next Wednesday. So one last weekend here to kind of see the family and kind of rest up before there is no rest. But that's all right. It's good. Football's here, and let the grind begin.
Yeah, and we are getting closer to that in college as well. Big Ten Media Days coming up next week at the Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis there, Matthew, on Wednesday and Thursday. So the college games getting at it. We've seen the Big 12 and the Pac-12 and all those guys having media days. I think ACC is up next, and then the Big Ten.
Right. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. Lucas Oil Stadium is going to be crawling with storylines for you guys. What are you most interested in at media day at the Big Ten, just from a local angle?
Well, for me, I'm going to be honest with you, Matt. I'm preparing a list of questions that have nothing to do with football because I feel like the 15 minutes you get at the podium, the coaches say the same thing. We had a great summer. We got a great crew. We did a good job on the recruiting front. We hit the transfer portal hard. You get the same stuff. So I'm creating a list of unique questions.
And we don't know who the quarterback is.
That too.
Well, I think in a lot of those cases, well, maybe for IU, maybe that's true. I don't know, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's kind of the same thing every single year, right? Like, and that's media days. In some of these breakout sessions, you can have more of the in-depth conversations, the stories you want, but a lot of times you just get a lot of coach speak. And so it's I don't know. Those 15 minutes up at the podium, you don't get a whole lot, but it'll be fun. It's always a great atmosphere. But one thing I wanted to ask you, Matt, is you said, I mean, obviously training camp just around the corner. Colts are going to have opportunities for fans to get out there and see this team for the first time with new coaching staff. What are you kind of most looking forward to as this season gets underway, training camp gets underway here in the next couple of days?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much newness around the Colts, and I think that's probably the big storyline is you're going to have a new head coach in Shane Steichen, right? So how does he conduct training camp? Like, what does camp look like? I don't think you're going to see like drastic things from one camp to the next between head coaches, but just in terms of the intensity of practice, the way practice is laid out in terms of what drills are you doing? How much time are you spending doing certain things? Like that's going to be something I'm going to be keeping an eye on. Obviously, Anthony Richardson, he's going to be the star of the show. Anthony Richardson's going to be the main attraction up there, especially at the beginning of camp. In fact, I mean, the Colts start practice on Wednesday, and they'll practice Wednesday, Friday, Saturday next week. And then the weekend practice is a night practice. That starts at 6 o'clock up at Grant Park, and that's sold out. It's free, but you have to have a ticket to get in. But all the tickets that are allotted for that practice are gone. I mean, that's about 7,500 people next Saturday coming up to watch practice and see Anthony Richardson kind of in the sunset and the twilight of an Indiana night. So pretty cool, pretty exciting stuff there. But I'm more so than that. If you want to get a little bit more nuanced, I'm excited to see, the tight end group. There's a lot of competition there, in a good way. They got a lot of depth there. But then kind of the other way, the offensive line, there's some good starting pieces, obviously, but depth-wise, the Colts are maybe only one or two injuries away from really relying on some young, inexperienced pieces, to potentially block and play a key role in protecting, potentially a rookie quarterback. So Chris Ballard's going to speak to the media on Tuesday. We'll find out where his confidence level is on the depth of the offensive line. And same thing in the defensive secondary at cornerback, because gone from last year are Stephon Gilmore, Brandon Faison, Isaiah Rogers. Those were your top 3 cornerbacks last year on the outside. Kenny Moore's coming back, but we all know he's primarily a nickel corner. So inevitably, a first or second year player is going to start and play huge minutes and a huge role for this team on defense, on special teams. And training camp's going to tell us if that guy is going to be, Juju Brents out of Warren Central. Is it going to be Darius Rush? Is it going to be Jalen Jones? These are all draft picks for the Colts. Or is it a guy, second-year player like Dallas Flowers, who played some corner towards the end of last year, but at the end of the day, wasn't a starter for the entire season. He's primarily a special teams guy and only has 1 year under his belt. So those are kind of the sneaky storylines that I'm watching at the beginning of camp, is just to see who's out there, how they're acclimating, how they're coming along, and what the Colts' confidence level is in the depth pieces at those 2 important positions.
How much, with the buzz around Anthony Richardson, Matt, how long has it been since there has been this much buzz around not necessarily just a quarterback, but any Colts player, single player?
Well, it's a great question, because I think unfortunately, there's been buzz around the Colts quarterback going into training camp for the last 4 years, because it's been a different guy. And I think Colts fans have been excited to see for the first time, Phillip Rivers and Carson Wentz and Matt Ryan, right? I mean, I think to a certain degree, there was excitement around those guys because of what they had accomplished at other places in their career, but it just didn't work out here for long periods of time with the Colts. I mean, Phillip Rivers in 20 had a really good year, but he was at the end of his career, only played 1 year before he retired with the Colts, took the Colts to the playoffs. But I think this year, to your point, Jim, I think this year it's probably surpassed those that anticipation for those players, just because of the circumstances, right? We all know where the Colts are at coming off a 4-12-1 season. Anytime you draft a quarterback with the 4th overall pick, the expectations are through the roof because of what that guy can mean to the success of your franchise. And we also know, too, if it doesn't work out, what that means to the detriment of your franchise, right? Hopefully the Colts are not in this situation, picking in the top 5 for a long, long, long time. If they are, it means this just hasn't worked out the way that the Colts wanted it to. So I think you're excited really for Anthony Richardson from that standpoint. But if you just are a football junkie, you're excited. You're geeking out just to go watch him play because he's a freak. He's a unicorn. He's so physically gifted, so athletic. You just want to see where he's at from, if you're a casual fan, where he's at from the end of his college career at Florida, and how many strides he's made going into his rookie season. Is he accurate? Is he a better decision maker? You just want to see that freak athleticism on display. You want to see that for yourself up close and personal at training camp in an intimate setting. But then if you're a coach or if you're a media member that got to watch him play in the spring, you want to see some really subtle differences, in the last 5-6 weeks of growth from the end of minicamp going into training camp. So I think that's a huge reason why, that first Saturday night practice is sold out, because everybody's just excited to see Anthony Richardson, the possible face of the team and the possible franchise quarterback, for the first time under the lights, if you will, up at Grand Park.
There's a lot of comparisons between me and Anthony Richardson. We both are extremely athletic, and we both moved from Gainesville to Indianapolis here in the last couple of months. So,
yeah, no, I mean, don't even stop there, Dustin. I mean, incredibly good looking, rich. I mean, people gravitate towards you. You're not afraid to pick up a bill. I mean, these are all things that we love about you.
Exactly. I know we got to let you go, but real quick, Matt, I wanted to ask one more question about Anthony Richardson, and I feel like we put a lot of stock into a guy, if he's going to be the starting quarterback week 1, about his maturity and how he's going to have to grow up quick. But to a certain extent, I feel like for Anthony Richardson, when you're taken that high in the draft, there's going to be a lot of maturing at training camp for the reasons of either he's going to be assessed very quickly. And it's going to be, wow, this guy is going to live up to the hype. This guy looks incredible. Or it's going to be, did the Colts waste a number 4 pick? So I think trying to find that navigation, trying to get through this storm of training camp and have media members, fans, everybody dissect every single throw, every single snap that you're a part of, especially with people coming out to Grand Park and taking in some of these practices. I feel like he's going to have to do some growing up and mature rather quickly here, not just in the season, but in training camp.
Oh, without question. That's a great point. I mean, every single throw is going to be tracked. Every single rep is going to be accounted for. Everybody's going to be, breaking it down percentage-wise on the number of first-team reps that he's taking as compared to Gardner Minshew. I mean, everything is going to be tracked and split up a million different ways, trying to get a read on how this is going and how things are trending. And I think he's used to that. But at this level, obviously, there's just more of it. It's just more of a quantity of it. And, no, it's a great point. And I think that's a huge reason why the Colts picked him compared to a Will Levis or a C.J. Stroud. I mean, I know Stroud and Bryce Young were off the board, before him. But, I think I've been on this show before saying, even if the Colts picked at 4, but hypothetically.
You're right. You have been on our show before, Matt.
That's right. But I think if they're at 1, I think Richardson was their guy all along because of his ceiling, what he can turn into, what he can be with the right coaching if he goes to the right situation, which the Colts think that they are. But it's just his mental makeup. It's his maturity. It's how he's wired. It's his drive. It's his work ethic. The Colts, they like all of those things probably more so than what he can do on the field and how he can spin a football. So you're exactly right, Dustin. He's going to have to deal with all of that and compartmentalize with all of that. But I think that he can, and the Colts are confident in his ability to do all of that, even as a 21-year-old, which is pretty remarkable.
What's up next for you, my friend? Well, we still got you there?
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, sounds different and better. What's up next for you, brother?
Just getting ready for camp. We'll be up there every day almost in the month of August, and then getting ready for preseason games. So again, like I said, first practice is Wednesday, and then it's full bore.
Can't wait. Looking forward to getting up there. I bet you're looking forward to it, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, it's good. Ready for the storylines to evolve and the narratives to change. Right, we've been sitting here talking about the excitement for the team, for 6 months. It's time to actually see it happen and let these guys grow and see what we got here.
Hey, what if we bring a grill? Can we grill out there on the sidelines?
Tailgate.
I would love to see you try to grill a brat in the end zone just to see how hard you get tackled by security.
Jonathan Taylor be coming over. Man, can you get me one of those with mustard?
I'll take one too.
Matt Taylor, we love you, brother. Appreciate you.
All right, guys. Good luck today.
Thank you, sir. Matt Taylor from the Indianapolis Colts joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Up next, our good friend Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. Back with him right after this.
We'll be right back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Whether it's
all right. Just a heads up, since we did start a few minutes late, you can take Dylan a few minutes longer than you normally would. Take him to a couple minutes past 9:30.
Yeah. What's this like for a visual, Dylan?
How are you guys doing?
Here's a story of a lovely lady. I have to get a piece of cardboard to put up a fake box.
There you go.
How are you doing?
I'm good. Why are you guys together today?
Why do you question it? Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Sure.
Which was on just last night. I've been watching so many episodes of that.
What?
Of what?
Seinfeld. Oh. God, please, man. They're not that there's
that
any.
Can come from any show.
Yeah, but it came from that show specifically because it was the not that there's anything wrong with that episode.
Like, I don't know that I'm pathetic. Did they say that too?
Pardon me?
I don't know if it's the same episode or not, but they're like, we're pathetic. Well, like, I don't know that I'm pathetic. They're talking at the breakfast place or something. Him and George and Jerry are talking.
Very possibly.
I don't know.
Well,
been some great ones on here right in a row, though. The contest and how they bring it back around. He's not master of his domain. I want a contest, George said. Jalen Harrelson, the latest Indiana prep player to leave the land of the IHSA.
Yep.
I see that they have their bylines on here today. Does that, have they gone back to doing that?
Good question. I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know.
Were you all were holding off on your bylines?
No, we were not. We were not part of. We're not part of that.
So this was just a Gannett thing.
Yeah, this is just a Gannett thing. Good. Yeah, I've not seen an update on how that was going, but hopefully that means good news if the bylines are back. Good news for them.
The byline's back and you're gonna be in trouble. Hey now, the bylines are back.
I used to be able to mute this.
It's too late, baby. It's live and in color.
Sing the song in color now. Crickets.
Oh, in living color.
No, that's not it, but that's fine.
Oh, you're talking about the other guys.
The country song.
What?
I don't know.
Should have seen it in color.
You say
It's
it was
okay.
a country song?
No, forget it. Here we go.
It's the fastest, simplest, and easiest way to avoid decision fatigue. You pick your plan and pick up at BB's Market with no extra charge. So leave the heavy lifting to us and enjoy healthy eating with stocked meals in your fridge. Order online today at thefreshfork.com. Fresh Fork is a proud partner of WOW Network. This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It is Thursday, July 20th. Hope you're having a great week. We're almost to the end of it. One more day after this. Jim Coyle with you, joined, of course, by Dustin Schutte in studio, and Dylan Sinn now from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Always glad to be on, Jim.
Always glad to have you. Yesterday, Kyle Neddenrip was with us from the Indy Star, and actually he has a piece today, which he teased yesterday. We were talking about Kanan Catchings, a current Purdue commit that had announced that he was going to leave Brownsburg High School and head down to Overtime Elite to prepare himself for an NBA career, and he is one that you'd say that he's probably making the right decision because this guy has NBA potential. So, and after watching what Jalen Hutchefino has done, and that is prepare himself to be a professional athlete for years ahead of the fact, it's probably a good move for him. It stinks to see good Indiana talent leaving the state before they're done playing high school. Now, Jalen Harrelson, it was announced that he is going to be leaving Fishers High School and going to La Lumiere, or at least he's staying in state at La Lu up north there, closer to you. But both of these guys will not be eligible for Indiana Mr. Basketball, Indiana All-Stars, which it's kind of sad in that regard. And I still wonder if they should be included in some form because they're still playing
the same sport, just at a higher level is all.
Yeah, and I guess I understand that. I think the idea is that they're not playing the same teams as everyone else, right? You're comparing apples.
Yeah, they're
to
playing
oranges,
harder
right?
teams. That's the funny thing is their schedule's
Right.
much harder.
Right, but and they also have different teammates, right? Like they're I mean, especially Cannon Catchings is going to go down. He's going to be playing his games in Atlanta. So he's not. I can't imagine how you would kind of make that determination, and it would be pretty difficult to do that. It's the idea of if you're playing against the teams from the state that everyone else plays against, right? And so it's kind of you're comparing apples to apples. How do you compare a guy who averages like 9 points a game at La Lumiere as their fourth best scorer to a guy who is the best player on I don't know, Hamilton Southeastern, right? It's apples to oranges, and I think that's why they do it. Not because those players aren't worthy, but because it's hard to compare. And so I think that it just makes the voting easier. It makes it's a hard and fast criteria, which I don't really have a problem with. I know a lot of these guys, they really want to win Mr. Basketball. I remember it was the same kind of thing up here. We had Keon Brooks several years ago. He was a Fort Wayne guy who transferred for his final season from Northside to an academy in La Lumiere. And that was one of the few things.
Worse, he went to some school outside of the state, and you never heard from him again.
That's right. We never heard from him again. But no, I remember when he decided to transfer, one of the things he said was it was a really tough decision because I really wanted to win Mr. Basketball and I wanted to win a state championship for Northside. And those are things those are kind of carrots that are keeping these guys in the IHSAA. And so it's something that they consider, and those things still have prestige, which is good to see. And so it'd be tough to make them eligible even outside of the IHSAA framework.
I mean, Mr. Basketball is to me, of course, I'm going to sound a little biased, but it's the most prestigious of all the Mr. Basketballs that there are.
Yeah,
period.
I mean, it's the first one, right? Like we were the one that did it first,
but
right?
Not only that, look at the names who have achieved it, more importantly, the names who didn't achieve it, like Larry Bird or names like that didn't win that award. That you're like, wow.
Mike Woodson.
Mike Woodson's another one. Yeah, because there were so many. It's unbelievable the level of talent when you go back. If people were to go back and seriously look at it, Mr. Basketball in Indiana from 50s, specifically the 60s on, when you've got guys like, well, Woodson was just a little later than that, but oh my gosh, who was the all-time great that only played 2 years at Indiana, played for the Pacers?
George McGinnis. I mean, holy cow. You start with that level of talent, and then it just keeps going. Year after year after year, you're talking guys that played for all these different schools, and it happens every year with the state of Indiana. And that's not always the case. This is going to be great news for the Kentucky All-Stars. Yeah.
I mean, they win like once every what's something comes around Haley's Comet? How often does that come around?
Good. I don't know how often Haley's Comet. The expression that I've heard most often is once in a blue moon.
There you go.
As in Blue Moon of Kentucky. Oh,
there you go. Yeah,
perfect. But yeah, you just hate to see it. But it is what it is. More importantly, with Cannon Catchings, and that's more in your wheelhouse. He's a Purdue commitment.
Yeah.
But there has been just nonstop chatter with him, it seems, for a while in regards to his commitment, which it may just be wishful thinking by people. It may just be smoke. But I'm going to be hard pressed to think that he ends up in West Lafayette.
Yeah, there have been signs and kind of, as you said, smoke, I think is the right way to put it, about him going elsewhere. over the last several months here, right? Remember there was a couple of days there that basically all of Indiana Twitter had a meltdown because they thought he was decommitting and committing to IU imminently, right? That was a thing that came across Twitter and didn't materialize because that's just kind of what happens sometimes. But that was a rumor for several hours there. But no, it's interesting because basically the way that the Indy Star story was written was that he's been offered by many of these basketball academies to come play for them for his senior year, and he hadn't really been interested in any of them until Overtime Elite came along. He visited, he really liked the facility, and he said, look, this is going to make me a better player for when I get to Purdue. Now the question is, if he plays a year at Overtime Elite and he likes playing for Overtime Elite and realizes, why would I leave here? Why wouldn't I just play another year and then go straight to the NBA? That's certainly a possibility. I'm sure Purdue understands that, and so they now have to be a little bit worried that he'll have a really good experience his first year at Overtime Elite and end up staying there and just moving right on to the NBA. That doesn't seem to be the plan right now. But obviously plans can change, as we've seen already with him transferring there. So I think that's a real possibility. And if I were Matt Painter, you obviously hope that he sticks around and you keep recruiting him and you keep making sure that he's doing as well as he can. But you probably start having some backup plans in the 2024 recruiting class would be my guess.
Well, Dustin and Dylan, I wasn't thinking that, and that is a definite possibility. That's not. I was thinking other schools. I just think that he's been committed to Purdue for so long, and it's changed. Things have just changed so much in so many ways, and I can't say that I have great familiarity with the success or failure of Purdue's NIL situation. I'm sure it'll be great when Zach Edey leaves. There's a chunk there, but I don't know that it's set up to where others are, number one. But number two, they're not winning on a national level. And I do think that guys like Kanan, they want to play a year. They want to play a year of college, at least one. They want that taste of college. And whether it's playing for a Purdue or Indiana or whomever, man, that's you can't get that at Overtime Elite. You can't get that at IMG. You can't get that at Montverde. You can't get what they can get there. That's something they're not going to get in the NBA even. This 1 or 2 years of playing for a school where you have fans that are just foaming at the mouth, especially if you're at a basketball school like Indiana or Purdue. They want that, I think, at least to experience it. So I'm going to be surprised if he goes that route, although it's like I said, I don't disagree with it. It's a great option that I didn't even consider, but I think he ends up going someplace. But now with it, if it ends up only being a year or two, does it matter where really? Is it, if it's Indiana, if it's Purdue, if it's UCLA, who knows? So that's going to make such a change. But I think that I just don't think he ends up in West Lafayette for a year for a couple reasons. Number one, Purdue does not show a penchant for producing NBA talent. That's another thing that has to show up to me, I think.
I mean, sure. The thing with Purdue is that they're not a one and done school generally. That's not how they do it. But when they have guys who are NBA talent, which they have had a couple times in the last several years, they develop them, right? They're not a school that takes one and done guys and turns them into 4-year players. That's not really how it works. I mean, Jaden Ivey came in and was immediately a star, and it was obvious that he was a star, and he was gone in 2 years because he was the number 5 overall pick, right? Purdue, it's not that Purdue doesn't produce NBA players because they are not developing players. It's because they don't get guys in who are expecting to be NBA players within a year or two, right? Now, they did the same thing with Caleb Swanigan, right? Where it was, they got him, they had him for 2 years. He was terrific. He went on to the NBA as a first-round pick, right? So when they have guys who have that kind of talent, they've shown the ability to put them in the league. They just don't get guys with that kind of ceiling for the NBA specifically on a very regular basis. Now, Cannon Catchings is a little bit interesting because I don't think you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that when he committed, he was not the type of 5-star that you expected to be a one and done.
No.
Right? I think that that's more of a recent development for him.
And that's another reason why I don't think he ends up in West Lafayette. His status has risen so much. His options have risen so much. And that's going to give him the fact that he's doing this alone, going to overtime elite, shows that, okay, I see the possibilities that I have now, and I need to take care of those. I keep using Jalen Hood-Schifino as an example, but it's because it's a great example. You know, he was preparing to be a professional long before he got to the NBA. You know, with his eating regimen, his diet, his workout, just how he committed himself, learning of what it truly means to be a professional and treat it like a job. And I think that that's one of the things that you don't learn that in high school. You learn commitment and a lot of other things, but there are just so many things that these places offer that you're just not going to get in high school. And these guys, I said it yesterday, I get it. They have that type of potential. So it would be like if someone comes along in an academic setting and you're going to just continue to raise them up in the level of classes that they can take because they can take it, because they can do it. So you want to find out, well, where is their ceiling right now so we can push through that ceiling. And that's exactly what he's doing here. And I agree with it. It stinks on how it has to happen, but it's a different world.
Yeah, he's doing what he believes is best for himself, right? And you can't really ask for anything else from these guys. And Purdue now has to basically re-recruit him over the next year, right? And from now until signing day of the 2024 class, they have to basically say, all right, yeah, you're committed. And this is true of a lot of recruits, right? We know that verbal commitments, even in basketball where there are fewer of them, verbal commitments are not gospel, right? There are decommitments, there are recommitments, there are changes all the time, right up until signing day and sometimes even after, as we saw with like Mackenzie and Baco, right? So you're constantly need to re-recruit your own guys, and that's a huge part of a coach's job, and it's going to be even more heightened for Cannon Catchings just because he is one of the best recruits Purdue has had in several years, and it would be a shame for them to lose him because he's the type of player they need, right? We've talked for a year and a half now about how they need more athleticism on the wing. Cannon Catchings is the type of guy who has athleticism on the wing. He's exactly the type of player they need to get in the program to really take that next step into truly national contention. And so they would love to keep him over the next year here.
Getting back to the point where the guys that do this, and I know we're late for a break, so I got to go. We'll talk about this. I don't know if you're able to stick around or not, but I still think that these guys should be eligible for state awards because they're playing a tougher, harder schedule. But we'll talk about that more. We've got to take a break. We'll be back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're in the forgot about the Fort Wayne break, my bad.
That's all right.
They only air an hour of the show, so we have to hit a hard break for them.
Okay,
it doesn't matter.
I gotcha.
Yeah, it's a little.
They need to start taking both hours of the show.
That's the next step for the city, huh?
Yeah.
All right.
You lose the Mad Ants, you add Indiana Sports Beat.
That's right. Well,
you need to go.
Yeah, I need to head out, unfortunately. But I'll see you. I'll see you next week, right, Jim?
See you on the radio, my brother.
Yeah. Well, I'll see you in Indianapolis.
That's right. Well, What is today? Today's Thursday. So
yeah, it's a week from today.
What day is Indiana on?
It's the 27th. It's both Indiana and Purdue are on the Thursday.
And then what
is
day
Northwestern on that day as well? We were curious about that. Okay,
Northwestern's on the 26th.
I got questions.
Yeah. All right, gentlemen. I'll see you guys later. Have a good one.
See you.
What's your pass?
Yeah, we have to figure that out next week, Johnny boy.
Figure what out?
Next Wednesday and Thursday.
Well, we're doing something different. I mean, it's worked every year. I just didn't know. You said figure out. I just didn't know if there was something different that was
it
going to
always
happen.
needs to be figured out.
You can send me with a GoPro. I'll just walk around the stadium.
Speaking of which, I do have a piece of equipment called a
Yes.
And it would make it easy for you to produce the show. There should be a way for us to put all the commercials in a block in there where you just the button, the in songs, the out song, all that stuff. Just boom, boom. Start researching GoPro. Is it GoPro 2? He's not listening to me.
What are you asking?
Is it GoPro 2? I mean GoPro. Is it Rodecaster Pro 2? What is the name of it? I can't remember.
You're pretty. It's one of those. I don't know if there's a number next to it, but yeah, it's a Rodecaster Pro.
No shit. What's funny is the only podcast I watch is Dell Jr. Download.
Yeah.
He cusses on there all the
15
time.
seconds. Here we go.
With a sommelier on staff to help you with your selections. Feast also provides a wide variety of cheeses, gourmet sandwiches, entrees, a coffee bar, bread, pastries, all made fresh and mouthwatering. Stop by Feast Market and Cellar today.
This segment is brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Thursday, July 20th. Appreciate you for being along with us. Never Lose Hoop golf outing day at the Golf Club at Eagle Point. Looking forward to heading up there as soon as we're done with the show. Dustin Schutte here in studio today. Very cool. Next week, Wednesday and Thursday, we will be coming to you from Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis, site of the 2023 Big Ten football media days. Indiana, Purdue, both on that Thursday, the second day. And we just found out Northwestern is on Wednesday, so we can prepare to have all of them.
Yeah.
I wonder if we can get Pat Fitzgerald on.
I'm guessing that's going to be out of the question.
I'm going to say that's a hard no.
Just a guess.
Hard no.
He's
That's
not
a
gonna
hard
be
no.
available.
Hard no. Yeah. I have to try to get Purdue's new coach on.
Ryan Walters. A lot of excitement about him.
Is there?
Well, I mean, isn't there always with a new coach?
Yeah, but not. It's usually though because a new coach is replacing a situation that you're like, okay, we're glad to be out of that. That's not the case with Purdue.
That's true. That's a good point.
They would much rather still be in the Jeff Brom situation, and I think it's going to be quickly told Jeff Brom made the right decision for a number of reasons. Heading to Louisville, first and foremost, because he has a better chance of making the college football playoffs. Playoffs. Now that he is in the weak ACC. We know that Louisville can build a program. They've done it before. They did it under Howard Schnellenberger when he started that run, and they've been up and down. But they were an offsides penalty at Rutgers from playing for a national championship. I think it was 2008. They jump off sides. Rutgers misses a field goal. Louisville jumps off sides. They get to re-kick the field goal. They lose the game, and therefore they don't play in a national championship, which would have been nuts, but it would have brought Howard Schnellenberger's the University of Louisville is on a collision course with a national championship.
The only variable is time. John, I wish you could get that, pull that up and play that and see how close I am.
It's pretty close. I mean, even
Yeah,
just
we've pulled it up before. It was a while back, but I agree. I think that's a really good impersonation.
It's pretty solid.
It was funny. His pressers were always on Tuesday. I was daggone it, intern in sports at WOKY, but I'd also gotten a job anchoring overnight news at that time there, which was weird. But so when my overnight sessions would be over, they would just send me out, since I'm already on the payroll, send me out to cover Howard, since nobody else wanted to be out there that early on a Tuesday. And I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. But it was just funny because they were always at the old Cardinal Stadium in Louisville, which is, John, is that even there?
So the remains of it are there, but it's no longer what it used to be.
Well, I know that. So the seating is still the main seating is still there.
I think so a while back they removed half of it, and I don't know if they ever put something else in its place, but I do think there's part of what used to be the old Cardinal Stadium still there.
A lot of things took place there, man. Farm Aid was there.
Yep.
Back
a lot of free concerts during the
State but
fair.
I mean, the Rolling Stones were there when I was in school at IU. I remember that. I couldn't afford to go down. I could not afford the $40 ticket.
$40.
$40.
Wow.
It was $40 to see the Stones. I'm like, $40? What are you kidding me? I can't afford that. So I didn't see the Stones then, which would have been something I could have added to, but I've seen them 3 times since in 3 very unique venues. But yeah, but there was a Farm Aid there because I did go to that. Hootie and the Blowfish, of course, John Mellencamp, Willie Nelson, Neil Young. I'd have to go back and pull up who all was at that one. It was pretty cool. But then there are tons of other concerts. I've seen George Jones there.
I mean,
if you went back and looked, because that was an old stadium. An old stadium, although it's just basically sitting on a parking lot.
Yep, and the reason they got rid of it is because it was essentially falling apart. They could no longer the structure couldn't hold people
underneath
anymore.
Underneath of it were horse stalls.
I did not know that.
I did not know that.
But that makes sense.
I've had my horses stalled underneath of there for different competitions going on there.
Did you rodeo there?
Oh, yeah. I roped at Freedom
and
Hall.
And now you know the rest of the story, Dustin.
Exactly. Freedom Hall.
Site of dirt?
All the time. Freedom Hall would host these big truck deals, all kinds of horse events. The North American Livestock Show and Rodeo goes on there. It's a 3-week run, but that thing is full of dirt. It is. They have the world championship horse shows gone on there forever. Freedom Hall has hosted the NCAA championship. It's hosted a lot of stuff, much less concerts. I've saw Van Halen there in '84, a whole bunch of different things there. And that's where they're having the TBT site in Louisville.
It is.
It's a great venue, as a matter of fact, too. Though it's a great venue to see sporting events in, but it's still, for one that is old as it is, it's a good. That's a good place to go into. It's plenty wide enough. And speaking of which, the TBT, they get started here soon. As Rick, we were talking about yesterday, there's a good chance if you live in the southern Indiana or whatever, I know there's people listening in Kentucky and whatnot, Ohio. The TBT, one of the regional sites is in Louisville, which is something they started doing different, which is very, very smart to do.
I'm just going to drive down and stay with John and watch.
There are 5 games today in Wichita, so I think it started already.
Yep. They started last night.
Well.
How about that? And they say this is the boring time of year for sports.
Well, and then the thing is, you got to find out all these different teams because Heart Fire, no idea what that is. JUCO Product, UP Ram, Team Arkansas. Okay, that one's easy to figure out. The Beale Street Boys. Okay, that's got a tiger on it, though.
That's probably Memphis.
Memphis Tigers.
There you go.
The Broad Street Birds. Have to figure that one out.
Now this is $1 million.
The Guys.
What is this? $1 million cash prize that they all split? Is
All
that what it
winner.
is?
Yep.
It's all winner take.
Right.
Winner take all. Yes. There's the Aftershocks. Okay.
That's Wichita State's team.
Yep. Makes sense. B1. Don't know what that is. The Guys have a St. Louis Arch on theirs. And these are just the teams that are playing in. There are like 68 teams, I believe, right?
I don't know if there's 68, but there's a lot. And Maurice Creek, formerly of Sideline Cancer, is playing with the Maryland team, as we learned yesterday from Rick Bozich.
Right, which is a surprise. But that's where he's from. That's the area where he's from.
Yes.
I don't know what happened with Sideline Cancer. Maybe they just recruited him away.
I don't think Sideline Cancer has a team anymore, do they?
These are the same people that are doing this soccer tournament, which they did that last year. And Indiana does have a team in that.
I didn't even know they were doing a soccer tournament.
Man, that's what happens when you don't pay attention to the show.
Apparently so. I knew about
That's what happens when you're out of touch.
That's true. That's also true.
He's out of touch. So out of touch.
I'm all out of touch. I'm so lost without. Are we just going to turn this into a singing show now?
No, because you can't sing.
You can?
Absolutely, man. Watch the comments. They love it. They love it.
They're turning it off.
This is the 10th anniversary of the TBT, by the way.
Wow.
So, first of all, congratulations to them. Most of these things that come like this, they come and go. The TBT has grown and it's fun. But you've got the Elam ending, which people still argue for it, against it. You know what? It's the only thing that has the Elam ending, and it makes it unique. You've got regions in Wichita, Dayton, West Virginia, Syracuse, Xavier, and 2 new locations, Lubbock and Louisville. So not much of a West Coast presence yet with this. Lubbock, Texas, the furthest western outpost, and that would be certainly considered a western outpost. But that's where Texas Tech is.
Pretty cool.
So you
I'm
got
sure
that.
They're going to have some sort of. I can't believe they don't have some sort of California reach yet.
Me too. Especially now that it's on ESPN, you could just kind of roll those games from a time standpoint. 64 team.
This is like the NCAA tournament.
Single elimination tournament. Once you lose once, baby, and you're out.
I like it.
It's like the NCAA tournament. Application is open to all. Their 22 event took place in July and August, airing on ESPN. 8 different cities around the country. I mean, I'm serious. You got to give them a huge shout out for what they're able to do.
Well, they're starting it at a time when it's before the start of football season. You are almost not quite.
There's nothing going on right now.
Well, you got the Open Championship in baseball.
Yeah.
Next week. Well, this week we've had.
But I mean, that's the baseball's already kind of there, and so I don't count that one. The Open, yeah, but that's just this weekend.
Right. So there's nothing. They found a good time slot to do this.
Perfect. Actually, a perfect time. Right after the NBA Summer League.
Right.
So you've given people a taste of it. The recruiting is kind of at a standstill.
Yep.
So it could not be at a more perfect time for all involved.
Yeah, I mean it's a unique format. It's a unique thing. I can't say that I sit there and I am watching it like a diehard fan or I'm fully invested, but it's a nice thing to put on, have some sports on during this little lull when we only have golf and baseball usually. So they found a good niche. And everybody loves to see former players be successful on the court. Like it's just such a unique thing that this is like the 3-on-3 thing that Ice Cube does. It's not entertaining to me at all. Like, I don't know for whatever reason, this is far more entertaining. And sometimes I feel like there's been times when you can form a team, but it doesn't have to be, they don't have to have attended that school. Sometimes guys pull in players from other schools. Like I think a few years ago there was a former Michigan player on Ohio State's team. Like there's been times when other.
I think the state of Indiana should just do a state of Indiana team.
That would be good.
Oh my God, you could kill it.
Yeah.
Kyle Guy,
Oh yeah.
Robbie Hummel.
Yeah. You could do all kinds.
Just think of guys from IU that are possibly available. Yeah, it would be something. It would be that would be something to watch. Looks like we've got to take a break. John Boy slapping us on the wrist. We've got more coming up. Chris Denari from the Indiana Pacers will join us, and we've got more to talk about. TBT, we'll talk more about that as well. Back with more. Brought to you by Metalworks Brewing Company, served at all the Endeavor hospitality restaurants and locations. Back right after this.
We'll be right back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana's
better.
More better.
Yeah, more better.
Honda of Bloomington.
What I'd like to do is have it set up differently.
Morning, Chris.
Hello there. How are you guys?
We're doing well.
Hello. What's the deal? A tag team.
Double. He's saying double, eh?
You don't know this, Chris, but next week I'm going to be at your house and we're going to do the show live from there.
That's the new thing.
You can do it because I'm going to be. You can do it. I'm in Boston next Thursday.
Are you going to see your cousin from Boston?
No, my nephew is getting married in Portland, Maine. And so we're flying to Boston on Wednesday.
Boston.
We've been all over the place. I have a new grandson. Evan had a little boy.
Congrats. I saw that on Instagram the other day. Congrats on the new family member.
Yep. Walker. So we were there all last week. It's having two grandsons now. It's a little surreal.
Are they in different? This is going to be a dumb question. Are they in different states?
Yeah. Will's here. Will lives in. Yeah. We had our grandson at our house yesterday. They live in Westfield. Okay. They're like 15 minutes from us, 10 minutes. And then, Evan's down south.
Right.
Do you know Brent Hutton?
Brent Hutton. Man, that name sounds familiar, but
I used to work with, oh gosh, darn it. The people who do all the broadcasting for college.
Learfield,
yeah.
I know the name. I don't know him.
He was back during the Kit Klingelhofer era.
Okay.
You know Kit?
Oh, absolutely.
I thought so. We're all big Reds fans.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to get them together to go to a game.
I think I was on when I went to the game that De La Cruz had the cycle and Joey Votto hit 2 home runs.
Now, I didn't remember what game it was, but I remember we talked about it because you talked to your friend who is with the Braves now.
Yeah, voice of the Braves. Yep.
And then the Reds guy.
Yep. Which I can get you in touch with them, no problem.
That would be great. My Reds, man, they've been stinking it up.
Yeah, they finally won last night. They'd lost 6 in a row, I think.
6 in a row and squeaked a 1-run game out last night.
Yeah, I think they're still only
2.5 back.
2.5 back. Milwaukee won.
And they do get a chance to make up to Milwaukee later on if they, as long as they don't screw things up here in the next several games, they can take that spot back. But
yeah,
all right,
I mean they're lucky with as bad as they've played. They're only 2.5 out.
Yeah.
5-star comfort food with a Southern charm at 2-star prices. Southern Stone Restaurant is part of Endeavor Hospitality's Wow Club.
This segment is brought to you by Courtroom Sports Grill in Bedford. Now back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Izzy.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Thursday. It's July 20th. Appreciate you being with us. Coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, of course. Also site of Never Lose Hoop Golf outing today. As we'll be heading over there when we're finished with the show. Dustin Schutte in studio with me today as well. I'm joined by Chris Denari of the Indiana Pacers. We were just talking about the TBT that started now, Chris. And there's no Purdue has a team now, but I think that the state of Indiana should just do a team. And then you could have, oh my God, you could have people like the Teagues, the Gordons, Kyle Guy, Robbie Hummel to get all these guys together. It almost wouldn't be fair.
Oh, that'd be outstanding. The TBT has been something that's, really grown the past few years. And Kiefer Sykes played for the Pacers, a couple years ago? He hit the big shot for the $1 million a few years ago. I think he was playing on the Syracuse team, right? So, TBT is, for all of us that love basketball, it really comes at a time that it's very quiet. A number of Bob Rathbun, who's the voice of the Atlanta Hawks, he does some of the TBT play-by-play. So it's always fun to watch. And you're right. I mean, it'd be great to see, you've got a number of Butler players that are out there that are playing overseas. That still can play. I mean, Robbie Hummel, I think, is a fantastic broadcaster, but he's played in the 3-on-3 and keeps himself in great shape. So it'd be a lot of fun to see a Hoosier team, not just an IU team, maybe not just a Purdue team, but an Indiana-based team that could play in the TBT.
Oh, Butler, Indiana, Purdue, and Notre Dame. Come on, man. That would be fun. And then we'd have to create the, I don't know what you would call it, not Hoosier, but in some Indiana TBT radio network, baby.
I'll tell you what, when I first tuned in today, we got connected and I saw Dustin there. I go, well, he's back home in the Hoosier state, right?
I am. And
he came to Brownsburg and Kanan Ketchings left.
I think those two things are correlated. I've been disappointed, though. I didn't realize that as I arrived, that the Fever were going to be on like a 4-week road trip. I don't know why that is, but I haven't been able to get out to the
Again, they heard you were coming and preparations were made.
Changed their alternative plans, but it's been good. I've been able to get back and around Indy, Plainfield, Brownsburg, been out and about. And it's been fun, though, to get reacquainted with this. So I'm looking forward to when the Fever are back, the Indians are back in town, getting out downtown, doing some sports stuff. It's been good.
Yeah, it's been a crazy time for us. I told my wife I feel like I'm on a Pacers road trip. 2 weeks ago, we were in Michigan for our annual family vacation with 2 other families. And then last week, we were down in Myrtle Beach, the birth of our second grandson, Walker Michael Denari. That's Evan's son. Evan went to college with Dustin at Manchester. And next week, we go to Boston for a wedding. It's like the month of July. I think I've slept in my bed like 3 or 4 days. So, followed free agency, followed the trades, all those things that I think the Pacers did. I thought they did a really good job, to get Bruce Brown in free agency, coming off a championship team with Denver, to make the trade for Obi Toppin. I thought the first couple of games in Summer League when Matherin played and Nembhard and Isaiah Jackson, with the 2 rookies, they look very good. So, an exciting last month or so as far as the Pacers are concerned. Now it's more of a quiet time in the NBA. Once you get past Summer League, you move into late July. August is really the time of year that the NBA looks at that is probably the quietest time, though the schedule's tentatively scheduled to come out roughly about August 15th. That's always key for us to be able to see what our schedule is going to look like during the winter months. But a lot going on. The last month or so, it'll quiet down a little bit. You'll still have all those trade rumblings. I mean, you've got James Harden out there. You've just got so many possible moving parts that it'll be interesting to follow that as the summer moves on.
And I got to be honest, I didn't follow Summer League, and I usually don't follow Summer League as closely as maybe I should. But one thing that kind of stood out to me, and I don't know if this is common, Chris, or if this was an outlier this season, but what I thought was interesting was you had a lot of Pacers players who weren't participating in Summer League that still attended, trying to get their eye on some of the guys that they'll be teammates with, some guys that are trying to make a roster spot. I mean, I thought that just kind of spoke to how close this team really is, heading into really what's kind of the second or third season of a rebuild.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it, you had 5 players on the floor that are a part of your 15-man roster, and that would be, Mather and Nembhard and Jackson, and then Shepard and Walker. And then you'd look over at the sidelines, and you'd see almost the other 10 guys. I mean, Miles Turner, Halliburton, Neesmith, Toppin, Wara. I mean, I can go on and on. They were all there. Vegas has become a real hub for the NBA. I think it will get one of the expansion teams in the very near future once the new TV deal and the rights deal is solidified. Learning, what this group has done. There have been, in the month of May and June, there were nearly 11 or 12 players there for sort of week-long informal, I don't want to call them training camps, but get-togethers. And that's exactly what they were doing out in Vegas, is they wanted to be there around their teammates, around the coaches. So I think that really bodes well, as you said, Dustin, for where the franchise is right now.
Yeah, and speaking of Obi Toppin, the Pacers have not had this top 5 pick. We talked about this. Just the single digit was the first time since '89 in this most recent draft. But getting an Obi Toppin, who is another top 10 draft pick, to me, that's like getting that extra pick. Even though he's been in the league for a couple of years, he's just been kind of getting wasted, I think. And I don't know that this is a guy that can put the Pacers over the top, but it definitely gets them closer.
Oh, no question. I mean, he gives them some size, some more athleticism. I mean, if you now look at Halliburton, Brown, and Toppin, those are the top 3 players in transition in the NBA, and now they're all on the same team. And I think Pacers fans late in the year saw Obi Toppin play very well against Indiana in that final week of the regular season at Gainbridge Fieldhouse and then at Madison Square Garden. And one of the reasons is Julius Randle was out. So all of a sudden, Obi Toppin was getting anywhere from 25 to 35 minutes. And he was a guy that was stuck behind Randle, averaging about 13 minutes a game. So when you look at his numbers on the season, you'd say, oh, well, they're not that impressive. But he was like an 8.5 rebound guy in about 13 minutes. Well, project what those numbers can be if he's playing 25 to 30 minutes. Those numbers, should double. And then all of a sudden you're looking at a 14 or 15 point a game player and maybe 8 or 9 rebounds. So I just think he's a lot like what the Pacers had last year in Aaron Neesmith. He got an opportunity to play, had been buried on the bench in Boston, played very well. Jordan Wara, when the trade was made, he came from Milwaukee to Indiana, played well. Jalen Smith, same type of situation last year. So I think the one thing that I'm going to find very interesting is this team probably has as much depth as it's had in quite a while. And so there's going to be a real competition for playing time and rotational minutes when training camp starts around the 1st of October.
And I think that's a good thing for this team that's going through this rebuilding process. And I talked about this last year, especially when they got up to that hot start and were playing, I don't know about hot start, but they were playing so many games that were decided in the final couple minutes. They were competitive with everybody and played really well in the first half of the season. It's almost like, even though Tyrese Halliburton is the guy who, I think he's their best player, he's their centerpiece, at the same time, the Pacers had a lot of guys that you didn't know who could beat you on any given night. It just felt like they had enough trust in one another. They had enough chemistry together to where if it was Buddy Hield's night, it was going to be Buddy Hield's night. If it was Miles Turner was going to get a load of the lion's share of the shots. I just feel like this is a team that you don't have to rely on one guy to get baskets, whereas a few years ago, I felt like it was pretty centered around Sabonis, and if he wasn't having a good night, it was going to be a rough evening for the Pacers. Now, if Tyrese is struggling, if Buddy's struggling, if Miles is struggling, you still got a couple other guys that can jump in there and carry a load.
Yeah, I agree with you, Dustin. I think that's a real strength of this team, especially from the offensive side. And I think one of the things we all know, we talked about it during the year, they have to get better. They've got to be a better defensive team. They've got to be a better rebounding team. They were a top 10 offensive team. They were around 28th as far as defense rebounding is concerned. I don't think you have to be a top 15 defensive team, but you need to be right around 20. If you can move 8 slots up, and that means you're giving up less points, less field goal percentage, you're a little bit better rebounding team, you can have a very good year. So I think that's a real focus for this team. It's something that we saw in Summer League. And again, those are different guys. But I think somebody like Walker, the rookie out of the University of Houston, gives them, some rebounding. He gives them definitely some defense. I mean, one of the first games in Summer League, Jarris had 8 points, 13 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals, and 3 blocks. I mean, that's something that can be beneficial to this team. And I think by acquiring Obi Toppin, you can let Jarris Walker sort of mature into a starting role at some point. You don't have to force him in there right now. So I think that's one of the reasons they made that deal. And to Jim's point, I mean, this was the player of the year in college basketball at the University of Dayton a few years ago. I mean, this is a high caliber player that with more minutes should be more productive.
We've talked about you kind of having a traveling road show here the past couple of weeks, Chris, and in a few weeks, correct me if I'm wrong, or you'll be covering the NASCAR event at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Is that on your bucket list or not bucket list, but your checklist once you get back?
Yeah, I'm usually on that coverage, and they've added a 4th race this year. They've added the next level, Indy Next, which used to be Indy Lights. So yeah, I mean, that's who knows how hot it's going to be out there. I mean, It's been sort of miserable here in central Indiana of late. But yeah, this weekend, IndyCar's in Iowa. They've got the 2 races on Saturday and Sunday. Last week they were in Toronto. They've been at Mid-Ohio. They've been at Road America. So they're back on the oval this week. And again, that Brickyard weekend for NASCAR and IndyCar, everything's on the road course. The 2 NASCAR races are on the road course. The 2 IndyCar races are on the road course.
Do you prefer the road course? Because maybe this is me being old school. I like the oval. I just can't get into some of NASCAR's road course races, and I understand why they're doing it. Brings out new fans. They do it in new cities. It's a little bit different than what you see. But to me, Indianapolis is just such a tradition. It's like you wouldn't turn Daytona into a road course, and I feel that same way about Indianapolis. I mean, do you think that it's been good for the sport, or do you prefer the road course? I've heard comments both ways, or maybe some sort of rotation. I don't know how it all works or how they'd be able to work that out, but it's an interesting change.
Yeah, I think at some point they've talked about going back to the oval, and I think
they actually have tire testing coming up.
Yeah, they do. Yeah,
oval at IMS for the oval, because it's not the same.
Yeah, I think part of the issue was, if you go back, where it really went south was that year that they had the tire issues.
Boy, couldn't get through 10 laps without problems.
10 laps, and those cars have never been great on that oval, because it's, even though we see some banking, it really is a basically
9 degrees.
It's a flat track. So those cars on the oval, they've just not been able to get to where they want it to be, where it's more than just single file racing. I mean, they just get into one groove, and they just go single file for 100+ laps. So I think that's one of the reasons they went to the road course. I was fascinated by the street race that NASCAR had in Chicago. I thought that looked fantastic.
And it was well received. Their biggest NBC's biggest audience in 6 years.
Yeah. So it is interesting. I think at some point, I do think, Dustin, they will be back on the oval, and I could see it being some type of alternating situation, maybe every other year or every 2 years, or that type of thing.
Well, and it's something that is potentially coming back as soon as 2024. as they're working to get that. A tire test, like I said, expected to happen within the month at IMS for NASCAR.
Yeah.
And you brought up Chicago, and it was such a huge success. While it was set downtown, so you could not incorporate the speedway, but that would be a pretty cool thing. Can you imagine NASCARs coming down and going around Monument Circle?
Yeah.
That would be the natural chicane.
I mean, what's amazing to me is I'm trying to think what the number was. Was it cost them $50 million or something like that to build the course or to
temporary track?
Yeah, I mean, man, I mean, you just think about the money that you have to spend. But I think about IndyCars in Nashville. It's really cool where they go over that bridge. I mean, there's something about, even as a television viewer, tuning in to something like that you see the sights and the sounds that are different than just a road course. Watching them go through the streets of Chicago or the streets of Nashville or Long Beach or St. Pete. I think there's just something really cool about that. So
unless you own a business in the corner of any corner for Noah Gragson, I would sponsor him because he will stop. He crashed. I think it was turn 6 at Chicago. He crashed like 6 times in the same turn. It was crazy.
Yeah, maybe there was a good restaurant there, that he was getting carry out.
But yeah, I think NASCAR's got to get back to, because it was an exciting thing. The Brickyard 400 was a big deal, but what went wrong with the tires? They worked, and then all of a sudden until they didn't.
Yeah, I don't know. I just remember how big it was early. I mean, you had Gordon and Jarrett and all those names. It was different. It was different. We all know that when something is new, people tend to flock to it. And it was so strong for many, many years. I mean, at one point, we all know when IndyCar went through the split with CART and IRL, that's sort of when NASCAR, jumped ahead. And even in Indianapolis, you could say at the time, the crowds were bigger for NASCAR than they were for the Indianapolis 500. That's no longer the case at all. Indianapolis 500 has come back. IndyCar's done a great job. But you would like to see that NASCAR IndyCar weekend. I give a lot of credit to both sides because that's the only time that you have the two series come to the same venue and work together with their, Cup and IndyCar series. So I think that's fantastic.
What's up next for you, my friend?
This weekend, going to be home. I was in Winston-Salem for the Sports Broadcasting Awards about a month ago. And then we were in Michigan.
The sportscaster of the year.
We were in Myrtle Beach. We go to Boston. So I'm sort of glad to just stay here in Carmel and just lay low for a few days. Happy with that.
Sounds like a good plan, my friend.
Hey, just want to congratulate you on being on in Fort Wayne now. That's awesome.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Yes, and hope to continue to add to it as our fans around the state, as we can try to reach them and spread the good news of Chris Denari.
Well, great to see you. Great to see you, Dustin. You guys hit the golf ball strong today.
We'll try, my friend. Chris Denari, Indiana Pacers, joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're in the
All right, guys. Watch a little Open Championship.
Got it on right now.
Got it going.
All right. Take care.
Fleetwood, always in the leaders pack on the first day.
Hey. What about Lamprecht, an amateur, tied for the lead?
I would pull a what's the former coach of Indiana football way back in the day? That's Lee Corso.
Yeah.
Timeout. Take the picture. Stop it. It's over.
Hey, that's like when I first got to Butler. In Montross played for North Carolina. Remember how Dean Smith would always bring his teams back to the player's hometown? Right. So this is like the early 90s. Butler was not good at all. And it was like my first or second year. And we had North Carolina at Hinkle. And we scored on the first basket a breakaway dunk off the tip. And that's exactly what I thought. I go, we ought to take a picture of the scoreboard right now. Butler 2, North Carolina nothing.
On that same level, Chris, this was probably 10 years ago now, but Manchester played Butler. I think it was a regular season game.
Yeah.
And it was 8-8 or so. Like Butler was up 8-2. Manchester hit a couple threes, and Butler called timeout, and everybody in the Manchester section whipped out their phone and started taking pictures of the scoreboard. And then they won by like 50 points. But that was a cool moment.
Oh yeah, absolutely. All right, see you guys.
Thanks, brother.
All right, bye.
Trying to get Robbie Hummel on again while I'm thinking about it. Yeah, we got to get you on every day. I'm not kidding.
That'd be ideal. Then you could go on vacation. Just fill in for a week.
Not just that, it just makes the show better.
All right, here we go, guys.
Metalworks Brewing Company is the culmination of a passion for beer, food, and custom metal art. Check out their custom growlers. Metalworks Brewing Company has an updated menu, new brews, and will be offered in all Endeavor Hospitality restaurants. Come taste with Dr. Hops' Brewing. Metalworks Brewing Company. Bring your passion and your thirst.
This segment is brought to you by K-Bello. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Thursday, July 20th. Thanks a lot for joining us. Already been a blast of a day, but we've got a lot more coming as the Never Lose Hoop golf outing happening today at the Golf Club at Eagle Point. Looking forward to seeing some peeps out there, and going for the hole-in-one contest. Not one, not two, but 3 shots at $5,000, $5,000, and $10,000. That's crazy.
Yeah, I have no chance.
Not with that attitude. I'm going to win all 3.
There you go. 20 grand right in your pocket.
That would be sweet. Of course, there would be a donation. But yeah.
I know. I mean, we've talked about my hole-in-one experiences. It's been one time.
Well, you know how long it would take to talk about mine?
Well,
we're done.
Correct. Same. But I've had a few close calls, like 2 or 3 close calls. One time that I thought was a hole-in-one, and it just wasn't even close. But I digress. But there's a first time for everything, right?
Well, generally, it generally doesn't happen multiple times for people. It's never happened for me ever.
Which can I say that it's annoying. So I don't know if anybody watched the American Century Championship, which was the celebrity golf tournament. Steph Curry won. But man, that dude had a hole-in-one and then made an eagle to win the tournament. And it's like, is there like some people just get all the luck. I understand that he's really good at golf. He's an incredible basketball player. But like, he could live without the hole-in-one. Let me have that moment.
Yeah. See, the thing is, those guys are just great at
everything,
virtually everything they do.
It's all mental.
It's abilities too.
Well, I mean, it is ability, but golf is more mental than anything. And obviously, if you're a professional athlete, you've got the mental discipline to be able to know what you're doing, tune out the noise, stay disciplined in your swing, all that good stuff that I can't do.
Johnny Bench got into a little hot water the other day. The former Reds catcher, the Hall of Famer,
I think he just cracked a joke. There's an event going on where someone was being welcomed into the former Reds general manager, Gabe Paul, who actually was involved in getting him into the organization, was going into the Ring of Honor. And I think they signed Pete Rose to like just some crazy cheap contract. And let's see, when I got out of high school in Pete Rose recalled his first contract negotiation and said, when I got out of high school in 1960, Gabe Paul signed me to a contract for $400 a month. And then Jeannie Paul, his daughter, quipped, that cheap? Never mind. Vince then responded, he was Jewish, which prompted laughter from some in the audience, which it was meant as a joke, I'm sure, but you're not allowed to make jokes of any kind anymore, which it really, I'm not saying that you're allowed to demonize people, but I mean, was that really taken as offensive? Would it have been taken as offensive? That's like saying, someone saying something about me and then referring to an Irish, can't think of the word I'm looking for, but comparison of some sort, which, and it could be kind of ludicrous, which the more ludicrous is, the more you know that, it's not serious, but
right.
We're just too serious, people.
I think it depends. I mean, context is important.
Yes, and that was perfect context. He was kidding. Some people laughed. It was a joke.
Well, and I think when you make those statements, generally, they're not going to be received well because not everybody's going to be in on the joke. If it's a private conversation, make that and somebody's comfortable with it, that's one thing. If you make it on the whole, that's where I think a lot of problems, and it's going to blow up on social media no matter what. Like I'm not going to get into
everything's going to blow up on social media.
I'm not going to get into the specifics. I don't know what's right, wrong, or indifferent, but I didn't see the comment. I didn't know about the comment. It just seems like some of the Reds legend, like Pete Rose, can never get out of his own way. Obviously, I don't know that this is going to like hinder the Reds franchise, but it's certainly something that's a news item when you've got a lot of other things that are in a positive. The Reds are actually in a division race right now. They've got probably the most exciting player in baseball. So it just seems like even when the Reds are they're not a distraction themselves or people are invested, they find a way to be distracting.
Fred's cousin from Boston was a baseball coach at Manchester before Dustin was born. So there's that. And Pete agreed with all three, and he won the Powerball last night.
How about that?
Now
he wants to win. He wants to hit all 3 hole-in-ones and win the Powerball.
Okay, I was going. Whoa! Wait a minute. Where's my forgivable loan?
I don't need much, Pete.
I'm telling you. I mean, there are some people that, and it would be wrong, but there were some people that I would expect a little something from if they won the Powerball, if they won the lottery, because there's certain people that I would just do for. But funny how those lists don't always coincide.
Like if you hit the lottery, I feel like there's going to be a lot of friends that come out. Like just like a lot of NBA, NFL, MLB players say, you get a lot of new family members and friends when you get that big contract. I'm sure that happens with the Powerball.
Now here's the best bet probably made today. Pete says he'll bet me $10 that I don't hit a par 3 green in regulation.
There you go. Seems like a safe bet on his part.
It absolutely does seem like a safe bet. And I'm going to take that bet. You're going to regret because I'm the best it's ever been.
Yep.
Come on.
I do know that reference. Hold on. Give me a minute. It's going to twirl in my
brain. Come on,
here.
Man.
I know it.
Even John knows it.
I do know this. Devil went down to Georgia.
It is.
Yes.
There we go. It took me a minute.
I am going to take that bet, though, Pete, and we'll we're going to keep track of all that. Kevin pointing out Liam McNeely scheduling his official visit to Indiana for September 8th through the 10th. So not too far away. That will be second football home game for Indiana. So, but more importantly, that's one of the big names that Indiana is has been chasing for some time. And I'm telling you, Indiana's recruiting is already really just trended upward. And the fact that everybody that comes to visit now is a top freaking 50 recruit. I mean, it is becoming, that is the standard, not the exception. You're not going to get all those guys, but you don't have to get all of those guys. Right. You get 3 of those guys. If it's 10 guys you're bringing in, you get 3 or 4 of them. Well, guess what? You're going to have one of the top recruiting classes in the country. And that's what it's going to take for Indiana, because they've just had such a lull, and it doesn't change. You have to change the minds of the kids that are watching basketball, that are playing basketball. And fortunately, there have been other outside things like the NIL that have helped, but Indiana has helped itself. Its recruiting has gotten better. Its coaching has gotten better. Its results have gotten better. They have gotten, and then so in turn, they've gotten better. They still haven't returned to that point of glory, I guess you'd say, and they won't until they win a Big Ten championship. And the sad thing is, should have won one last year,
right?
Without question. They should have won the Big Ten title last season because of the losses they had. You cannot lose at home to Iowa. You can't lose at Iowa with a 21-point lead. Right. You can't. There's just certain things you can't lose at home to Northwestern, a team that you were better than, but you lost 2 games to. That's Big Ten champions don't do that.
Right.
Purdue had some narrow escapes against some of the worst teams in the Big Ten, but guess what? They escaped. Luckily, they played the weakest schedule in the Big Ten last year, and I doubt that will be the case this season. But they're going to be better this season. It's going to be interesting. I have no idea how this Indiana team is going to fare on the road, because they're going to be tested early, but not on the road. They're going to be tested at home, and with a lot of things to their advantage that, man, once the Big Ten season starts, it's going to be different.
Well, I feel like you can look at the Indiana season, I don't know about 2 different lights, but you can make some comments about it in that it was a step up from what we've seen in previous seasons. I think you had a little bit more confidence in last year's team than you did in, I don't know, this last 7-8 years, it seems. You had a feeling that they were going to be able to figure it out when they were rolling, when they were hot. I don't remember how many games in a row they ripped off, but they were one of the hottest teams in the Big Ten at one point. At the same time, I think they know, and I think Mike Woodson knows, what you're saying is correct, in that you can't blow a 21-point lead on the road against Iowa. You can't lose both games to Northwestern. You got to at least split. You got to split with Iowa. They did not due diligence, but they did take a huge step up by sweep. They've won 3 out of 4 in the last. Mike Woodson has won 3 out of 4 against Purdue and Matt Painter, and they've had some pretty good teams. So that's
and that's after losing 9 straight.
Yeah.
Mostly during the Archie Miller era and at the end of the Tom Crean era. Archie Miller never beat Purdue.
Right.
Ever.
Yeah, and I said this multiple times on this show and on other shows. I never thought that Archie Miller, I never got the feeling that Archie Miller placed any sort of emphasis on that game. It was, to him, it was just another game. It was like playing Michigan State or Illinois or Iowa. Whereas I think Mike Woodson has put a higher emphasis on this game. Like, we've got to win this game. If we're not going to sweep them, we've got to at least split. And I think that you've seen a more disciplined Indiana team in that game. I mean, it's not an easy thing to go into Mackey Arena and win. And I don't think Mike Woodson, I think that was his first win as a player or a coach at Mackey Arena. So this program is taking steps in the right direction. They are a better program. They're in a better spot. Their recruiting is getting better each and every season. It seems they're in the hunt for a lot of big names. That's a good thing. And now, but it's time to take that next step, and that's winning games that you're supposed to win. You're not going to go through the Big Ten season undefeated. You're going to lose some games that you wish you had back. That's just the nature of basketball. You're not going to have it.
It's the nature of sports.
Right. It's the nature of sports. You're not going to have it every single night. But
if you were perfect, you would be perfect.
Right. I think there is a legitimate thing. We talk a lot about Michigan State and Purdue and being in the Big Ten. Chase, I'm not I don't think you can discount Indiana from being in that chase. There's so many uncertainties about this team, a lot of unknowns. It's going to take a couple weeks or months before we know what this team's about, what this team can do. It's just going to be a very interesting. I think there's a lot of cautious optimism about Indiana basketball because you just don't know what to expect. But you expect that now that the foundation's there, you've won 3 out of 4 against Purdue. You've made the in-state tournament each of the last 2 years. You've at least won 1 game each of the last 2 years in the in-state tournament. Now it's time to make that next step. Be more in a better position to win a Big Ten title. Be in a position to at least you got to get to the Sweet 16 this year.
Absolutely. Looking at this new night uniform for the Colts. I'm showing it just off my phone. Black helmets.
I don't like it.
Oh, you don't
Blue
like
jersey,
anything.
blue pants. Ugh.
Probably no different than anything else. But hey, a lot of fun today already. We've got more to have as the Never Lose Hoop golf outing taking place. We'll let you know how that goes tomorrow. Also on the program tomorrow, how about Trent Sisley, one of the Indiana targets, in-state prospect, plays with Jalen Harrelson on the AAU circuit. He's about ready to start up his junior season, so looking forward to having him on. And what else we got, John Boy?
We should hear from Bob Kravitz tomorrow.
my.
JD Campbell, I believe, is going to be co-hosting tomorrow, so a lot of good stuff.
Well, that'll be a great introduction for JD or to Trent Sisley. He can understand what it's like to deal with an SID early.
Yeah, it'll be good.
Looking forward to it. Big thanks to everybody on the program today. Of course, Matt Taylor, Dylan Sinn, Chris Denari from the Colts, and of course, Dustin Schutte sitting in.
By the way, I don't know if you realize, we do have a couple more minutes because we started late.
Well, I'm glad you reminded me of that because
I could tell where it was going, but it is what it is.
Always good to pick up on that. Make sure you pick it up when I'm sitting down. But yeah, looking forward to tomorrow. But thanks today to all those guys, as always a fun. Thursdays are always fun. Tomorrow, Friday, get you kind of set up. We'll catch up on what happened today. We'll see if we can maybe get some side interviews done with guys out on the course and see what we can come up with there and get you set up for the weekend, get you caught up on the Open, which is happening right now. I am not leading. But we'll see what happens after this round if I can jump into the lead. But
there you go.
What are your all's goals for the course today in terms of what you want to shoot?
What are you kidding me?
A hole in one.
Never seen me play, man. Survival, man. It's survival.
Just go out there and have fun. Have
yeah,
a good time.
This is more about having fun. I don't care about. I always say that I always care about winning, but it's not where this type of events don't drive me insane.
Who's the best golfer that's going to be in attendance that you're aware of?
That's a good question. I do not know because I do not know everyone in attendance, but I can tell you who it will not be. This guy.
And also this guy. The two people in this room. In this studio.
That I can promise you will not be the case. But I'm more like a rodeo clown when it comes to golf. I'm there for comic relief.
Hey, make other people feel better about their golf.
Maybe support. Maybe I need to hit a shot here. Do something once every 4 holes, maybe. But it's more like being a rodeo clown. Man, I need to get this guy out of danger or crack a joke. Yeah, that's how I view my golfing on scrambles. Although I'm not as bad as I make myself sound, but that's
Are you like Bob Knight when you get stuck into a sand trap?
Oh, there you go. You can watch that video for motivation. That Bob Knight 10-minute golf. The outtake.
Golf your way.
Golf your way. That's right.
It's crazy. We'll see. I think the weather is going to be, most importantly, the weather is going to be good today. So that's an important thing. It's not terribly hot at the moment. It's still in the 70s.
So, and it's not getting up barely into the 80s today. So what a beautiful little deal. If the rain stays away, which I believe it will, blow. So there's that. But looking forward to it. Looking forward to being back tomorrow. We'll tell you all about it. I'll take all kinds of mulligans, my brother. Thanks a lot. Most importantly to you guys. Without you, we have no reason to be here. Thanks to John, the producer, for keeping us between the white lines. Until tomorrow, for Dustin Schutte, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports